Welcome back to the Fire Break. I'm Steve Wolf, and the Fire Break is sponsored by Team Wildfire, where we're using jet engines and AI to figure out how we can make fires less destructive, stop killing people, and stop damaging property. And then if you want to restore the balance of nature with some residual fire, have at it, my friend. We could use a little balance out there. Speaking of balance, there's really no segue there, actually, because I don't know that Nick has any balance. But I've got Nick Russell with me here, and Nick is the Vice President of Operations for Watch Duty. And Watch Duty is this amazing app that lets you see in real time what's going on with fires, verified by people who are actually looking at the fire. Nick, welcome to the Fire Break. How are you today?
Great, Steve, and thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you got a super cool app. Everybody loves Watch Duty, and you've been growing like crazy. Tell me, what does Watch Duty do? We'll start with the functionality. What's its purpose, and how does it work?
Yeah, so Watch Duty is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that disseminates and reports information on wildfires in real time. There's obviously other apps out there that are reporting wildfire information, but the biggest difference between Watch Duty and the others is that we have real humans involved, listening to the radio traffic, monitoring official information sources, and then creating rich reports from the report of ignition all the way until the last engine leaves the fire. And so, we tell people the information they need to make informed decisions and start preparing to leave even before that evacuation order comes, by just giving them a better story and picture of what's actually happening out there.
Okay, so I'm probably not going to log into the 501c3, so that's your problem. I'm going to log into the app, right? And then that's the exciting part. But that is cool that you're nonprofit and that you are able to take tax-deductible donations. Just putting that out there in case anyone's thinking about supporting Watch Duty. So what does it look like? Do you have any, can you describe to me what the app looks like? I know it comes on iOS, it comes on Android, it's multi-platform.
Yep.
And like many visualization apps, you can put in layers of what you want to look at, right? What's the wind doing, etc.
That's right. Yeah, so Watch Duty is available on iOS and Android, as you said, and it's also available on the web. The biggest differentiator on the web is we don't provide alerts. And that's really the meat and potatoes of Watch Duty is being able to get those alerts directly to your phone and not having to go search through and find them or hit refresh continuously. And so the app is really a great place to be, and having it online is helpful for folks, especially in dispatch centers or folks that are working on their computer and just want to have a view of what's happening or dig in a little bit deeper on that. And then within the Watch Duty app, you have the flame icons. You'll see 3 different ones in there. One of them is a full flame icon, and we're sending push notifications out. We're letting folks know about a growing wildfire. And then we have our silent incidents, which is depicted by the flame icon with a stricken bell. And we really like to refer to that as monitoring internally. And that's really how a lot of incidents start. And so we'll create that silent incident. It comes on the map. Nobody receives a notification unless they've opted in for it, which is an option. You can opt in for silent notifications at the county level. And then as our reporters continue to learn more and verify the location and learn the report on conditions for the wildfire, if a threat is determined to be probable with the wildfire, then we will send a push notification. The icon will change to depict that, and then we'll continue our reporting until the threat is passed. And then we also brought on prescribed fires 2 seasons ago, and that's been really great for raising awareness around prescribed fire and putting good fire on the ground when the conditions are right to do so. And it helps mitigate large fire growth during the high fire danger times. And it's also, from what we've heard, helped with erroneous 911 calls of folks seeing prescribed events and thinking that they are, in fact, a wildfire. Now they can get on their Watch Duty app. They see where they are. They see where that flame icon is, and they say, oh, okay, that's a prescribed burn. And they can actually click on it, learn a little bit more, see who's involved with it, and what the goals of the project are. And as you mentioned, Steve, there's many rich layers within the app. Actually, today, we released a new version of the app, which is much, much quicker, very snappy to use. And it's also now what's referred to as a single page app. So you can compare it to a lot of the apps that we use on our phone for mapping. No more back button. You can click on an incident, scroll over, click on another incident, and it'll just keep cycling those pages. So we're really trying to make this easier and easier to use. Not that it wasn't already. And then within the maps, we've added more base layers. So now we have terrain in there. And then we also have a more rich satellite layer. We're showing the streets a lot more colorfully. We want to make sure we're catering to folks regardless of their vision. As mine continues to fade, I definitely appreciate the more rich text showing up in there. And then we're always continuing to find new layers that we could potentially add. As it stands today, we show the active fire perimeters from NIFC and here in the state of California where I am, FIRUS, and we continue to look for more sources for fire perimeters. And we have 5 years of fire history that can be turned on, which is extremely helpful to know what fires have burned around you. And when a new fire starts, it's a good indication that that could be a place where it may slow up, or old suppression efforts can be brought back up, meaning that old dozer lines could potentially be cleared and reopened. We also have the surface wind visualization, so you can see what the surface wind speed looks like, the direction that it's going. Air quality index, super important for me. I'm a newer father. I have kids, and before, air quality wasn't as much of a concern to me, but now it is very much a concern. So having the ability to view those numbers from Purple Air in the Watch Duty app has been extremely beneficial. And then we offer a $25 a year membership, which helps support keeping the app free for everybody else, but it also adds some benefits and unlocks unlimited counties that you can receive notifications for, unlimited places of interest on the map, which is great for putting relatives, your work, kids' school, whatever it might be. And then it also gives you the flight tracker. And the biggest difference between our flight tracker and say somebody like Flight Radar 24 or Flight Aware is we're filtering only flights that are active in fire suppression efforts. So you're not going to see the Southwest airline flight heading to Disneyland. It's just fire suppression aircraft. And it's not agency specific. It's any contract aircraft, agency owned aircraft. If they're involved in fire suppression, you see them on the map. And it's really neat. You can actually see the tracks where they've been flying. When the tankers are circling, you can see that. And then, of course, there's the reporting. And that's the biggest part of Watch Duty, is understanding the story, understanding where the fire is and what's around. And something we're very excited about this year, releasing in select areas where the data is available, but is evacuation zones. One of the big things that we've learned over time is, when an evacuation warning's put out, it's north of this highway, east of this road, and west of this road. And so folks spring into action, they start packing their belongings, and they're heading for the door, and they're like, wait a minute, which way is north? Cardinal directions is a real issue. Not everybody understands even where north is in perspective to where they are. Maybe they're traveling, something they're not familiar with. So if we can display on the app, here's where the flame icon is, here's the evacuation zones that are currently active for a warning or an order, whatever it is, and you can see the ones that are inactive and really start building a better decision-making process for yourself. We're, of course, not the only tool out there. We're just another tool in the toolbox. And we don't want to replace anybody. We just want to help so the firefighters can suppress and we can help get some of that critical information out, especially in rapidly growing incidents.
And compared with other apps that are, tracking fire progress, like, TechnoSilva, you're really consumer facing, I would say, is one of the bigger differentiators.
Yeah, I think it's important to extend on that a little bit and talk about how Watch Duty was born. So our co-founder and CEO, John Clark Mills, he moved to a northern area of Sonoma County where I live, into a town called Healdsburg. And about 6 months later, he was evacuated due to the Wall Bridge fire. And so he's left standing outside the evacuation perimeter, looking in at these air tankers flying over his ranch. He's trying to figure out, is this place burned down? Where is the fire? Is there a risk? Is it heading towards his house, away? And he's looking all over the place, and he can't find any information on the agency pages that are available throughout our county. And there was nothing there yet because everybody was involved in the suppression efforts of the fire or evacuating people, and there was nobody to do these media communications. And so he found other people that were doing it, these unofficial sources but people that have been doing this for decades, like the CA fire scanner that we're all familiar with here in California, Michael Sylvester was a great asset. And there's other folks here in our local community that were doing a great job as well. And John thought, this is great, but there's people in the comments talking about the government starting the fires with space lasers and all this extra stuff in there that really distracts from the truth, or people talking about a shopping center.
Right. It's ground-based lasers, right?
Ground-based. I think it depends if it's the antenna array or the satellite. It really depends where it is. But it never ends, and it clogs everything up. And so people are out there trying to find out, is my home gone? Is it at risk? And this is the stuff that they're seeing. And so John's like, there's got to be a better way that we can do this. And he got some friends together, and in 90 short days, they put the code together, and Watch Duty was born in August of 2021 in the original 3 counties, which was Sonoma Lake and Napa County in California, and shortly after Mendocino. And the goal the whole time was to get the information out. So there wasn't more Johns out there trying to find out if their ranch burned down, trying to find out if their house burned down or where the fire was. And we continued on that mission through the rest of that season. And then the following year expanded to the entire state of California. We beefed up the team a little bit, and we learned that these problems are everywhere. You know, the agencies are just taxed. Dispatchers are extremely busy. And so, yes, they're going to get these alerts out, but it takes a while to do so. And so after our second year being in the whole state, we learned that, yes, this was built for the public and everybody was finding tons of value. I think our growth really shows that. But then we started learning that all these first responders we're talking to, tanker pilots, battalion chiefs, operations section chiefs, OES officials, police officers, they're using Watch Duty and they're finding extreme value in the situational awareness add that it gives them. It's not replacing any of the official tools that they have access to, but now all of a sudden, everybody's jumping in the engine, they're responding to a call. And then I hear stories of these guys pulling Watch Duty up, and there's somebody sitting in the engine. Hey, Watch Duty's got a camera picture. Look at this thing's ripping. And so then they're start getting to the incident a little quicker, you know, or they're not messing around. And that's not our end goal. But if we can do that inherently, that's awesome. Like, you know, hearing that we've been a great situational asset for first responders is extremely flattering, right? It wasn't the goal, but now we're looking at, is there any things, like little things we could do to help these folks out? And so those are some of the things we're exploring. It's obviously the focus is on the public, keeping a free alerting service and all this data in one place. But if we can help the folks suppressing this at the same time, that's awesome.
Yeah, right. So tell me about the interactiveness with users. It's kind of like, you know, like Waze, right? I'm driving along, I see a stranded motorist, I hit the motorist button, or I see a speed trap and I hit the police button, and then other people are notified about that. So you have a moderated content because you don't want people putting, you know, garbage in there. But how do users interact with it to keep informing the model?
Oh, that's a great question. So the way that Watch Duty works is multifold here. As far as the user's interaction with the app, it comes down to a moderated photo stream. So any user, if they open up their app, they're on their phone, not on a desktop, but they're on their mobile device. In the upper right-hand corner, they'll see a picture of a camera. Now, that camera only allows somebody to take a live picture. You can't pull something out of your photo album, your library, and upload it in. It's only for real-time pictures. And provided that you allow the Watch Duty app to access your location, when you take that picture, it'll send all of that to us, including an estimate of your azimuth or which direction that you're looking. So then our reporters will receive that. If it's a good picture, you haven't taken it through your car's windshield with a reflection, or your finger's not covering the camera lens, and it provides good context of what's happening, and people can get more awareness based off of that, then we'll add it into our reporting stream, or we'll add it as an image onto the map surrounding the incident. So it behaves the same way, except one's in the report, one's just on the app.
So if you're capturing...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so if you're capturing the location and the azimuth, then when you get 2 or more people sending pictures in, you can triangulate the fire position, right? Okay.
Absolutely. You can triangulate, and you can really start to dissect, you know, by smoke colors, what might be burning. Is this a vehicle fire, a structure fire, vegetation fire? And then we can start gearing an internal response, pinging other reporters, which kind of brings me to the next point on that. So our team is run by both contributors and reporters. Everybody is in Slack, which is our internal communication system. It's built by Salesforce. It's a great tool for businesses to communicate. But what we've done is repurposed it for our use and created channels by state and then regionalized those. And so within each region, we have all these automated signals coming in, NIFC, Wildcat, other official data sources of ignitions. And then our contributors will bring information in, local knowledge, stuff that they've found. They're listening to radio traffic. Our reporting team is listening to radio traffic. And so once we deem that there is something happening here and attention should be paid, then we'll get that into the app. And we'll use different signals like the moderated photo stream from the users and the other automated signals I mentioned to help in our decision-making process. But as far as the information in the app, it's always official information from official sources. And that's radio traffic, media pages, or just getting right on the phone and talking to ICs, PIOs, whoever it might be. And what our team is truth seekers, right? So if there's something that doesn't make sense, roads don't intersect, a map that just came out doesn't make sense, they'll hop right on the phone with one of our local contacts and dig in and find that information, because that's so important to us, and the quality over quantity. We want good quality information instead of a bunch of it.
Right. I was able to watch, the progress of the Texas fire. I imagine that was probably the first time in a while that you'd covered panhandle fires.
Yeah, Texas was a first for all of us, really. We had planned to expand to Texas as well as a few other states this year. Currently, we're in 11, now 12, with Texas as a new addition here recently. And we were looking at the date as being April 1st or maybe a little bit longer. For us, whenever we move into a new area, it's super important that we have local people, because local knowledge is pivotal in these situations. And so we were in the process of recruiting. We did have some people in Texas, and then these panhandle fires start blowing up, and our team's watching it. We're reporting on it internally in Slack. And John Mills, our CEO, calls me and he says, "Would it be crazy if we expanded to Texas right now?" And I said, "No, I think we need to. It doesn't seem right." And he agreed 100%. And we put the wheels in motion. I think in just over an hour, we went from not being in Texas to reporting on 3 separate fires in the Panhandle. And it was really important to us. This has been our mission the whole time, to get this out. And we saw a gap that we could fill. And it seemed to be very well received. I've talked to some state folks in Texas that work in the fire service, as well as some locals, and they were blown away by the watch duty coverage and really appreciated it. The acreage updates, the mapping updates, and that's what watch duty does. And with this great team, it was able to happen, and very rapidly, very quickly.
What do you see as the future for a program like this?
So I think the future in the near term looks like watch duty focusing on its core competency and doing the best we can in the wildfire space. But that being said, fire's not in the name watch duty for a reason. And we want to move to more hazards. We'll probably start extending on some of the things that affect wildfires, but also bleed into other parts of the year, weather being at the top of the list there, and seeing how we can offer that in the wildfire space and then extend that on. We're looking at different possibilities of custom alerting based on river levels, reservoir levels, and becoming more all hazards. We don't want to become a scanner app, if you will, but we want to cover things that affect communities and that have difficult times getting communication from the fire ground, the boots on the ground, whatever it is, to the communities. So
you'd expand from fire, you could do floods, storms, tsunami warnings, whatever's coming up.
Yep. And
are you staying domestic, or are you planning to go international with this?
I mean, 10-year goal, we'd love to be all the way around the world, but it's really important that while we continue, we maintain our reputation. And that reputation has come from accurate and quick response. And so making sure that we have the support staff to do that, and the team together is really important to us. So some of it's baby steps, and then we climb a mountain really quick and then take some steps across the top and enjoy the view.
Right. And tell me about the perimeter function, like the active perimeter function. Where does that data come from? I think, did you recently add satellite layers?
Yeah, so we've looked at some satellite layers, but we haven't added those as a fire perimeter. There's a lot of nuances with the satellite. A lot of it comes around delays. But we've always had the NIFC current perimeters in there. So that's the National Interagency Fire Center. Many different mapping platforms that are used, from NIROPS infrared aircraft to GPS on the ground. Somebody's just driving the perimeter. That all goes to NIFC and then gets produced into a map, as we all see with the red perimeters on it. And so we display that. Also in California, there's a FIRUS program that was developed by Chief Brian Fennessy from the Orange County Fire Authority, and then has now been passed off to both CAL FIRE and Cal OES. And so they can be ordered, or they self-dispatch to fly fires, and they can accurately map the fire after making a couple rounds around it. And then we get that data as soon as it leaves the plane, and we put it into the app. So we're able to get that up very quickly. As soon as the plane completes its mission, still in the air, we can generally get that up in just a few minutes.
So how is Watch Duty differentiated in what seems to be a growingly crowded space of data?
So that's a good point, right? The data is a very crowded space for many reasons. One of those being is there's a ton of different data silos, I'm going to call them. And so different agencies are putting data in different places, if it's the Forest Service versus a state agency versus a local. And so a lot of those sources are publicly available, and a lot of these apps are pulling out of there and putting it in there, just as we are. But what we're doing different is involving humans in it and applying rule sets to that data to come out erroneous information or staffing changes that end up getting put in as a wildfire. We see that on a lot of maps, and then we're maintaining those. So I've seen some other maps where a fire that was out, extinguished, nobody's thinking about it for 2 months, is still on a fire because nobody at the local agency switched it to an inactive incident. So then it's remained active. And so by having this huge team of volunteers, we're able to keep a very clean data set. And then we're providing alerts with context. So we're telling a story, really. The reporters are telling the story from the ignition all the way through. Nobody else is doing that.
Tell me about the on the prescribed burn side of that. Here in Boulder, we had some extreme fire watch warnings, last week. And so I pulled up Watch Duty and I'm watching to see. And then I noticed, there's like 4 prescribed burns listed. And I'm presuming that those burns are not happening, that those were just placed on the map because someone had filed a report that they were planning to do a prescribed burn. But I'd be very surprised if there was actually a burn.
Yeah, no, I actually was looking at some of those myself because there was some new starts, and one of them actually escaped. They were able to catch it right away, but it did escape. So I do wonder what some of the parameters are on some prescribed burns in some areas. I've seen some carried out, and I scratch my head and wonder why that's happening. But I also trust that the professionals conducting those burns have our best interest in mind and are taking care of that. But there is instances with us as well where there's a prescribed fire on the map and it gets called off due to unfavorable weather conditions, whatever that might be. And we will report on that and pull it off the map, provided we know about it. A lot of those things are what I call game day changes. So you have a mess of firefighters and crews there ready to go to work, and then somebody says, nope, weather's no good, burns off. And that doesn't always get communicated out to everybody. So there's a communication gap in there, and we've tried to start to solve some of that. So we're automating some of the prescribed fire information by monitoring the air board's information. A lot of these folks, including the U.S. Forest Service, are required to report fires over 10 acres that they're doing for prescribed fire. And so that information is always good. And when it cancels, they do cancel that stuff out. But we want to start working with more prescribed burn practitioners, burn bosses, and allowing them to enter their own prescribed fire information. So if they're a vetted practitioner, they're a burn boss, they get in touch with us and they say, yeah, here's my association. This is what I do. We vet who they are, and then we can start training them, and they can actually report their prescribed fires within the Watch Duty app end to end. So we're currently working with 2 organizations here in California to do that and exploring options to take that elsewhere.
And you said that perimeters were being sent over to you from Nifty. What's the time delay on that?
The time delay, it varies really by agency. And so we actually talk about this internally quite a bit. And what we've really boiled it down to is it depends on the ECC or the dispatch center, kind of where their technology cycle lands at. Here where I am in the CAL FIRE LNU unit, we have one of our Echo radio devices that monitors for toneouts in real time. So as soon as it hears stations dispatch, it'll send us alerts. And we'll see the NIFC alert come in 2-3 minutes later. And then we can go to some other places and we'll get that NIFC alert 6 hours later after the fire is already contained and done.
Wow.
So it's extremely variable depending on where it is. Wildcat is the same situation. There's some areas that are very quick, shortly after dispatch, and some that are days behind. And that's another reason why we're here, because, you know, if we can pick up on that stuff that's missing and add that, it adds to the good data and it adds to that information flow going on.
So you said you're not a scanner app. You don't want to be a scanner app, but when people see a fire pop up on there, if it's nearby or if it's in an area of interest, they probably want to hear what's going on. Would there be functionality to, at least know which frequency or which provider is covering the live stream on that fire?
Yep. And that's something we identified as being a real want out there. A lot of people want to follow along. They want to listen to Broadcastify, Open Megahertz, whatever the platform is, and follow along with what's going on and make even more of their own decisions. So this year, we're looking at adding Broadcastify links in, which will show the relevant feeds in the area, as well as having some radio repeaters on the map that you can actually click on and get some of that frequency information if you actually have your own handheld scanner and you're not going to be going to a site.
Right. If you're nearby.
Right.
Yeah. Because if I see a fire, I know what town it is, but that town might have 300 or 400 listings on Broadcastify, Fireground 1, Fireground 2, FTAC 6, who knows, right? So if you're able to link, which one is actually covering the response on that fire, that would really help people out a lot, I think.
Yeah, I think it helps both the public and the first responders, where we've heard many use cases for both.
Yeah, I've seen, the ash raining down on my driveway, and, the evacuation orders somewhere in the area. I don't know if my house is in it or if it stops at my neighbor's house.
You're trying to look up your zone.
Right. I'm trying to get the latest information so I can know, stay or go. And just, if anyone's wondering, if in doubt, go.
Yeah.
You can always come back later if you were wrong, but sometimes you can't get out if you wait.
That's right.
As unfortunately many people have paid the price on that. How many active users do you have now, or do you know?
Just over 1.4 million.
Wow, that's substantial.
Yeah, and in the short period of time, it continues to boggle my mind constantly. It's just, if you would have asked me 2 years ago when I started with the team, if we would be here today, I would have said you're crazy. And looking at it now, it's been the most rewarding experience of my life, working with this team and serving communities throughout our coverage area. It's truly rewarding.
Well, it's not just the tech, it's the scenarios as well, right? If I'd have told you 5 years ago, in the next 5 years, you're going to see multiple fires with over 1,000 homes burned in a day, you'd be like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
but now it's happening on both sides. So the tech needs to move fast to keep up with the dynamic situation on the ground as we're seeing more and more fires. And I imagine you have to build in capacity now to be able to provide the level of coverage that you're providing on simultaneous fires going on all over the country.
That's right. Yeah, capacity is a big thing to keep an eye on. We saw last year during the Spokane, Washington area fires, the Gray Fire and the Oregon Road Fire, we had to bump up some of our service to make sure that we could handle it. And, we're always ready to do that at a moment's notice and keep the information coming out. Very exciting, Nick. Well, we met on LinkedIn about a month ago. You told me about the app. I downloaded it. I've enjoyed it tremendously. It's really useful. It's so easy to use that, in fact, even I could do it, and I didn't even have to ask my kids to help me. So congrats on that, and really, really great product there. Yeah, thank you very much for that. That was one of the big goals. Keep it super easy, and we don't need your personal information. You download the app, and you don't need to put anything in at all. You can select up to 4 counties and start getting alerts. You don't pay for anything. You don't provide your email, name, anything. That's not what we're interested in. We just want to get information out to folks. Well, you're doing a great job. Nick, thanks so much for joining me today. Yeah, no, thank you. It's been great talking with you. Absolutely. This is Nick Russell, Vice President of Operations at Watch Duty. The app is called Watch Duty. It's free. There's a paid version too if you want to support the cause there and get a little extra functionality. But I highly recommend, if you own a phone and it happens to be either iOS or Android, put this app on there, because it's a real lifesaver. And you don't know when you're going to need it, and when you need it's not the time to download it. So just like having a fire extinguisher or anything else, right? You don't wait till you see the smoke to get it. So super job. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you explaining that. And look, folks, put the app on your phone. If you don't like it, you can always delete it. But having it there is really a great way to maintain some heightened situational awareness about fires going on around you. So there you have it. It's called Watch Duty. I'm Steve Wolf. You've been listening to The Fire Break, and The Fire Break is sponsored, as you know, by who? Team Wildfire, teamwildfire.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you at the next one. Take care.